Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City's virtual hearing of February 24th, 2022. My name is Nicholas Blendy, and I am the Deputy Executive Secretary for the board, and I will be your MC for today. As you can see on the screen, the outline of what we're about to go over and how today will run. First off, this is the Webex platform, and Cisco Webex is the online meeting web platform that the city of Baltimore is using to conduct all of its virtual meetings during the COVID-19 pandemic, including the Board of Estimates, City Council, and Planning Department. Some basics. To fully use the Webex system, members of the general public should have access to a laptop, an iPad, a smartphone, or a similar device with a camera and with both camera and microphone capabilities. If your electronic device does not have microphone capabilities, you'll then need to use phone number provided below to dial in and turn the camera on the smartphone device and basically be double devicing. To participate in the WebEx meeting, members of the public will have to download the WebEx app through their smartphones or click on the following link that you see on the screen to access the hearing online through the web. And you can see the access code is 2339-889-9149, and the password is BLLC1234. We suggest that if you're going to use your smartphone, iPad, or a similar device, that you have downloaded the application at least a day before today to ensure that you have full access to the program. And if any member of the public doesn't have access to a computer, a smartphone, or a similar device, they can call the following number below and enter the access code just to listen only to today's hearing. And that number is 1-408-418-9388. And the access code is 2339-889-9149. All materials, evidence, and related items for today's docket are available on our website. You can see the short docket and the long docket, which provides brief description of the cases and all the materials under the hyperlinks with today's date on it, and you can see the web link for where that's located. Please note that the board observes a 48-hour rule for online hearings for all evidence, meaning any evidence to be considered today needed to have been turned into the board up to 48 hours before today's hearing, meaning everything had to have been submitted by 11 a.m. Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022. Any evidence submitted after this date will not be considered by the board during the hearing as untimely. All evidence should be submitted to our Assistant Executive Secretary, Ms. Stacy Russell, and her email address is stacy.russell@baltimorecity.gov. And we note we're still closed to the public, and so the board is not accepting any of these documents in person. A related item, any amendments to the applications made by an applicant or their representatives for anything on today's docket is not going to be accepted after February 10th for any case today. If anything attempts to be amended today on the application that would happen after that date, the case is going to automatically be postponed. And in addition to posting the today's docket online, all the licensees and applicants were mailed a letter instructing them of the date and time of today's virtual hearing. Some procedures. I'm the Deputy Executive Secretary, me, will read these preliminary instructions and the general ground rules. I will then call each case in the order it's listed in the short docket. I will then ask the applicant and his or her representative to please identify yourself and, if applicable, have the applicant and or any supporting witnesses be sworn in. The board will provide an opportunity for the applicant and his or her representative to present their case. The board may ask questions of the attorney or the applicant. At the conclusion of the case, the chair will ask individuals who are on the call and who have access to the necessary computer, smartphone, iPad, or similar devices if they would like to testify in support or opposition to the application. If you do wish to testify, you will have to use the raise your hand feature in the WebEx platform. It's at the bottom of the app, and I will acknowledge you. You'll be recognized. You'll have to identify yourself, be sworn in by the court reporter, and then you may testify. I do note all individuals who testify are subject to questioning by the board and potential cross-examination by the attorney or their applicant. And I remind you that if you have access only to a phone and you can't have your camera on, you will not have the opportunity to testify. After all testimony and evidence is presented to the board will then vote on the application that is before them, and our Assistant Executive Secretary will then read the exhibits into the record. The board is not authorized to discuss any non-case related matters today. While serving in its quasi-judicial capacity, the board is authorized only to hear testimony and evidence related to cases before it on today's docket. The board's not authorized to discuss any other cases or any policy matters during these virtual hearings. Some general ground rules. Please mute yourself for when you're not speaking to minimize feedback and extra noise. Please do identify yourself and state the spelling of your name before you speak. Please speak slowly and in a voice that is clear so that our court reporter understands exactly what's being said and who is saying it. I do note that in addition to the court reporter being present, this event is running live on Charm TV. Individuals who use profanity or disrespectful or unruly may be expelled from the virtual hearing today. All attendees, applicants, licensees, and members of the public that wish to provide testimony during the hearings must be sworn in prior to giving any testimony, and no physical evidence is being taken at today's proceedings. Lastly, I reiterate, absolutely no amendments to the application can be made at the time of today's hearing. Automatic postponement. Helpful reminders, please be prepared and have read everything ahead of time. Please test the video conferencing platform as well. Your location does matter. Please try to find a quiet space with good light and a strong internet connection so that you can be seen and heard clearly. Please be present and do not be multitasking. And lastly, above all, please be patient with yourself and with others. The short docket as is on the screen. There, I note for the record, there have been 4 matters postponed to a later docket. And Mr. Chair, I do not remind you that you also have agreed to move out of order on items 9, 10, and 11, which we'll get to after we do number 1 and 2, and before returning to order of as on the screen. Are you ready to proceed, sir?
Yes, let's begin.
In that case, I will move council in. The first item on today's docket is applicants Jacqueline Dollaway and Lance Tiso, Tizjack Incorporated, trading as trade name pending. Premises are located at 25 East Cross Street. License is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. And this is a request for a 90-day transfer hardship extension under the provisions of Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-1705B. Mr. Shawless is counsel, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, Ms. Shawless. Would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yes, Frank Shawless representing Tizjack Inc. If the commission please, could I make a proffer?
You may, go ahead.
This application has been pending for about 6 months. We almost finished it, but because of inspections and because of lack of being able to get people to do the work, we were delayed, which is the reason for the extension request.
Okay.
And that would be the testimony.
All right. Commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Anyone else, Mr. Blendy?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature on the Webex platform. Mr. Chair, no one has raised their hands.
On the basis then of Mr. Shawless's written request of January 7 and his proffer this morning, I vote to approve a 90-day transfer hardship extension for this license. Commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chair, based on the testimony provided today, I vote to approve the request for a transfer hardship extension of 90 days.
Based upon Mr. Shawless's letter of January 7th and his proffer this morning, I too would grant a transfer hardship extension for 90 days.
Thank you, Ms. Russell.
No exhibits for the record.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shawless. Good luck.
Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board. Applicants will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with the results of today's proceedings. Mr. Chair, ready to move forward?
Yes.
The next matter is also Mr. Shawless as counsel and is licensee Darren Mislan, Cross Street Management LLC, trading as Bookmakers Cocktail Club, 31 to 33 East Cross Street. This license is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, and this is a request for a hardship extension of 180 days under the provisions of Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-2202.
Would you identify yourself again, Mr. Shawless, please?
Frank Shawless representing Cross Street Management LLC. If the commission pleases, I would make a proffer. The problem with this has been constant problems because of getting people to do certain work and finding people to operate the business. We finally have everything under control. We have the employees and we are ready to start. So I would request this extension.
Okay. Commissioners have questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Public comment, Mr. Blendy?
Any member, excuse me, if any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter before the board, please use the raise your hand feature in the Webex platform. Mr. Chair, no one has raised their hand.
Just to clarify, this is 180 days and not 90 days?
Yes, Your Honor, this is a regular hardship extension,
Okay.
not a transfer.
All right. Mr. Charles, on the basis of your written request of December 22, 2021, your proffer this morning, I vote to approve the 180-day hardship extension. Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, based on the testimony provided today, I also vote to approve the request for a hardship extension of 180 days.
Based upon Mr. Shawless's letter of December 22nd and his proffer this morning, I would grant the hardship extension for 180 days.
Ms. Russell?
No exhibits for the record.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Charles. Good luck to them.
Thank you very much.
That concludes this matter before the board. Licensee will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with the results of today's proceeding. So next, Mr. Chair, I believe we are moving to items number 9, 10, and 11 on the docket.
That's fine.
Give me 1 second. Oop, I went too far. And Mr. Hurdle is counsel. I'm moving him into the room. The next item before the board on today's docket is applicant Roger M. Richardson, Jordan C. McGraw, and Carrie C. Simone, Waco Street Beer Company, LLC, trading as Waco Street Beer Company. Premises are located at 1100 Wicomico Street, Suite 1A. This is an application for a new Class D beer brewery license under the provisions of Alcoholic Beverages Article 2-207 F1 and 2 and Alcoholic Beverages Article 1-101 C2 little vi capital T, authorizing the board to grant an on-site consumption permit to an applicant who holds a Class 5 brewery license. And Mr. Hurdle is counsel in the room, Mr. Chair.
Morning, Mr. Hurdle. Please identify yourself for the record.
Abraham Hurdle on behalf of Waco Street Beer Company, LLC. With me is Mr. McGraw and Mr. Richardson. Miss Simone is unavailable today when she also moonlights as an accountant in some capacity. And this is the kind of time of year when she's a little bit busier than the most. We did try to get her here, and she will be available in the future if needed, and she will be participating in the business as required.
Okay. Do you want to proffer to us about the brewery?
Absolutely. This is a location on Wicomico Street. It's a suite within the 1100 Wicomico building. Beautiful building. My clients are going to spend roughly $300,000 building out a brewery. They've spent about 50 to 100 through today on various permits, construction, plumbing. We do have some examples of their logos and their materials for Waco Street Beer. And I think we actually have some beer with us today. They're going to be focusing mostly on sours and other sort of lagers, things of that nature. And they're just really looking forward to getting open. It's been a long process. Because of COVID, we had a lot of hiccups with regards to the federal government and state getting some of those permits through. Mr. Blendy was extremely helpful in getting us to this point. So I do want to make sure that I thank him for that. But they're looking forward to opening their Class D license under those provisions. And moving forward. At this time, I would ask the board if they have any further questions. Before that, I will say my guys will be alcohol awareness trained. Everyone on staff will be TAM certified as well. And they will make sure that they only serve their beer, as this type of license does not permit them to buy from wholesalers or other participants in the industry.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Hurdle, is there a seating requirement?
No, this is not the BD7s up in the Charles Village area. This is a Class D through the state regs because they have a Class 5 manufacturing license.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate that clarification.
Yep.
Do we have public comment, Mr. Blendy?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature on the Webex platform. Mr. Chair, no one has raised their hand.
All right. On the basis then of the materials contained in the application and the proffer from Mr. Hurdle this morning, I vote to approve the application for a new Class D beer brewery license for these applicants. Commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chair, based on the testimony provided today from Mr. Hurdle, I also vote to approve the application for a new Class DB beer brewery license.
Based upon the proffer from Mr. Hurdle and the application before us, I too would grant the new Class D beer brewery license.
Ms. Russell?
No exhibits for the record.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hurdle. Good luck to them.
That
They're very
concludes-
excited. Thank you, commissioners. May they be excused?
They may be, yes. You have to stick around.
Correct.
That concludes this matter before the board. Licensee or applicants will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to legally complete obtaining the new license that was preliminarily approved today. Ready to move to the next matter, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Then again, client of Mr. Hurdles, the next item before the board today, applicant Abraham Hajipour, Howley Records LLC, trading as trade name pending. Proposed premises are located at 402 North Howard Street, and this is an application to transfer ownership and location of a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license presently located at 606-208 West Lexington Street to 402 North Howard Street, and requesting live entertainment.
Mr. Hurdle, would you identify yourself one more time?
Abraham Hurdle on behalf of Cowley Records LLC. With me is Mr. Hajipour, the sole licensee.
Okay. Do you want to tell us about this case?
May I proffer?
Please.
Mr. Hajipour is the owner of the building at this location, and Mr. Hajipour has been running small musical, well, he runs a record store out of the location, and he's received significant requests for people to have small live entertainment events, as well as offer liquor for sale at that time. We are in the process of completing the transaction to purchase this license, today's hearing being one of the contingencies. The zoning has been conditionally approved for the tavern license with live entertainment use. And we're just looking to get approval. We have had no negative feedback from the neighborhood, no discussions in terms of restrictions or any sort of an MOU issue at all.
And this part of North Tower Street, is it in that area around the antiques area?
I believe it's a couple blocks south of that area.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
No questions, but I appreciate you, Mr. Hurdle, for reaching out to the community, given it's a transfer of location as well.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have public comment, Mr. Blendy?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the Webex platform. No one has raised their hand, Mr. Chair.
I know, Mr. Hurdle, that they did have violations back in 2018, sale to minors, so they need to be very careful about that. Understood?
I've spoken with my client about the need to make sure that they protect both themselves and their business interests by carding everyone who comes in and following the rules. They can only order from wholesalers, so if they run out of something, they cannot go to a liquor store to replace it. And I indicated again that this is one of those things that we have to be very careful of. My understanding from my client, not that we need a further proffer, is that he plans to have significant names handling small events at his location that he believes will bring in a crowd from outside the city that will be, I would say, just a more affluent crowd than perhaps that area normally sees. And as a result, the problem should sort itself out, but he will be diligent. He will have significant security presence. And yeah, he'll follow all the rules and regulations of the liquor board as well as state of Maryland.
Okay. All right, thank you. On the basis that the materials contained in the application and your extensive proffer, I vote to approve this application to transfer ownership and location of this Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license presently located at 60608 West Lexington Street to 402 North Howard Street, and approve their request for live entertainment. Commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chair, based on the testimony and material provided today by Mr. Hurdle, I also approve the application to transfer ownership and location of a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license presently located at 606-08 West Lexington Street to 402 North Howard Street, and the request for live entertainment.
Based upon the application and the proffer, I too would approve the transfer of ownership and location of this BD7 license presently located at 606 to 608 West Lexington Street to 402 North Howard Street with live entertainment.
Thank you, Ms. Russell.
No exhibits for the record.
All right, thank you on this one, Mr. Hurdle. Good luck to your
Thank you.
client.
May I excuse Mr. Hajipur?
You may.
Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board. Applicant and counsel will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to legally complete the transfer of ownership and location that was preliminarily approved by the board today, which by law must occur within 180 days of today's hearing. Are you ready for the next matter, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Then Mr. Hurdle's final matter before the board today, applicant Hannah Spangler and Allison Crowley, Crash Banana LLC, trading as Griffith's Tavern. Premises are located at 3631 Hickory Avenue, also known as 1029 West 37th Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license and an application to transfer ownership only of said license.
Once again, Mr. Hurdle, please.
Abraham Hurdle on behalf of Crash Banana LLC. With me is Ms. Spangler and Ms. Crowley.
Okay. Do you want to proffer this one?
Yes, please. This is an in-location transfer of ownership. The current operator has been there. My understanding is, I guess for lack of a better term, he goes way back. There's going to be some new blood brought in. More than likely, there's going to be some cosmetic renovations, mostly just to kind of just clean it up a little bit. They're going to add a craft program in terms of cocktails, wines, as well as beers. But for the most part, the operation will roughly stay the same. They'll bring in some new staff. The staff will be, again, trained in that craft program, and everyone will be TAM certified. I have spoken to my clients about ordering from wholesalers and making sure that they card everyone and follow the rules and regulations of the Baltimore City Liquor Board.
Do the applicants have experience handling alcohol?
Yes, if I may, I'll have them sworn in. I can't recall the exact amount of time, the number of years, so I'll have them testify to that, just
All right.
briefly. Ms. Spangler, can you raise your right hand?
Weatherman?
Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
Ms. Spangler, how much experience do you have in the alcoholic beverage industry?
Altogether, probably about 10 years.
And you're familiar with all operational aspects of running a bar?
Correct.
In terms of as a bartender, manager, and I guess operator?
Yes,
And Ms. Crowley, do you have any experience in the industry?
I do.
I'm sorry, let me,
Yeah, let me swear you in, Ms. Crowley. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
and Ms. Crowley, how much experience do you have in the industry?
Yeah, about 10 years.
Commissioner, my clients have about 20 years of experience combined in the industry. I have full confidence in their abilities to operate this location, and think it will be a great transition and continue to be a wonderful addition to the neighborhood on 36th Street, or 3631 Hickory, which I guess is 37th Street.
Okay, and our records indicate the last violation, I think, back in 2004, so it's been a while, but they need to be vigilant as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Commissioners have questions?
No questions.
No questions.
With public comment, Mr. Blundy?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature on the Webex platform. Mr. Chair, no one has raised their hand.
On the basis of the materials contained in the application, the proffer from Mr. Hurdle, and testimony from the applicants, I vote to approve this application to transfer ownership of this BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chair, based on testimony provided by Mr. Hurdle and his clients today, I also approve the application to transfer ownership.
Based upon the application and the testimony, I too would approve the transfer of ownership.
Ms. Russell?
No exhibits for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Hurdle. Good luck to those ladies, and I hope this goes well.
Thank you, commissioners. May we be excused?
Yes.
Thank you again.
That concludes this matter before the board. Applicants will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to legally complete the transfer of ownership that was preliminarily approved today by the board, which by law must occur within 180 days of today's hearing. Are we ready to move back in order, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, excuse me. Yes, Mr. Blendy, let's do that.
All right, and bear with me one second. Then the next matter before the board, item number 4 on today's docket, applicant Brent Sale, Prima Dopo Baltimore LLC, trading as Prima Dopo. Proposed premises are located at 1724 Thames Street. This is an amended application to transfer ownership and location of a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license presently located at 807 South Broadway to 1724 Thames Street, requesting live entertainment, outdoor table service, and delivery of alcoholic beverages. Ms. Hecker is counsel on this matter, and Brent Sale is also in the room, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Good morning, Ms. Hecker. You want to identify yourself for the record, please?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Caroline Hecker, Rosenberg, Martin, Greenberg, on behalf of the applicant. As Mr. Blendy indicated, Mr. Sale, our individual licensee applicant, is present today, as well as he's with Dominic Lascola, who's also involved in the operation of the restaurant.
Are you going to have them testify?
I'd like to proceed by way of a proffer with your permission, and then we're certainly available to answer any questions.
Okay, before we start, let's clarify some things because, we've received a number of communications about this case, and I want to be very clear on the record as to what's before the board this morning and what's not before the board this morning. So my understanding is that what is before us is an amended application to transfer the ownership of this license and to move it to 1724 Thames Street with live entertainment at that Thames Street address, outdoor table service as approved by the zoning board at that Thames Street address, and delivery of alcoholic beverages. Is that correct?
With one minor modification, we have withdrawn the request for outdoor table service. We've determined it's not feasible given the narrowness of the Thames Street sidewalk here.
Okay. And what's not before the board at this time is anything related to the adjoining property on Ann Street, because that hasn't gone before the zoning board yet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Then why don't you begin with your proffer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I submitted a packet of exhibits earlier this week that I expect the board has in front of you. I'll walk through those briefly and explain what's going on here. This is an application to transfer both ownership and location of a Class BD7 license from 807 South Broadway to 1724 Thames Street. The license that's being transferred was most recently operated as El Coyote Bar and Grill. That closed back in September of 2017. At the time, Mr. Lascola had his eyes on the Preservation Society building at 1724 Thames Street. And although he had not yet acquired the property, he was sensitive to the fact that there are a number of licenses located in this area. We didn't want to increase the density of liquor licenses located in Fells Point. And so he acquired the license that had gone out of operation on Broadway with the intention of moving it over to a new restaurant to be located at the licensed premises here. We filed a transfer of ownership application at that time. That application has remained pending. The license has been renewed annually since that time, and we have recently filed an amended application, as Mr. Blendy indicated, to transfer both ownership and location to the new restaurant at 1724 Thames Street. So
Okay.
the proposed, I'm sorry.
Is there going to be a name for this restaurant?
Yes, the restaurant is proposed to be called Prima Dopo.
Okay. All right.
And it will be located on the first and second floors of 1724 Thames Street. In the packet of exhibits that I submitted, you'll see there's a little Google map image showing the proximity to the current location. It's just around the corner from the old location of the license at 807 South Broadway. The new premises, 1724 Thames Street, is the old Preservation Society building. There are some photos from Google Earth and Street View showing the proposed building, existing building, where the proposed restaurant will be located. Mr. Lascola acquired the property in December of 2020 and is now moving forward with redevelopment plans. The proposed restaurant, as I mentioned, is called Prima Dopo. It'll operate on the first and second floors of 1724 Thames Street. And ultimately, we hope to also include a dining room in a portion of the rear of the Ann Street property. But Mr. Chair, as you mentioned, that property is zoned R8. I included a copy of the zoning map in the file that I submitted. In the R8 district, what's called a neighborhood commercial establishment, such as a restaurant, is not permitted without approval of the zoning board. We have applied for that approval. That hearing is scheduled in March, and we know that we will have to reapply to the zoning board, or to the liquor board, excuse me, to modify the licensed premises to include that dining room at a later date. The 1724 Thames Street property, as you'll see on the zoning map, is located in the C1E zoning district. The E stands for entertainment. It is a district where live entertainment is permitted by right, as well as the restaurant, so no additional zoning relief is required for the 1724 Thames Street premises. The floor plans that you'll see in the file will show that the first level of the restaurant will have a bar area, as well as several different seating areas and a pizza station located in the rear. And then the second floor of the restaurant will be back of house, including storage, kitchen, prep areas. There's some office space for office tenants up there as well. You'll see I also included in the file some renderings of what the interior space will look like once it is built out as the restaurant. The restaurant will plan to offer lunch and dinner 7 days a week. Eventually, they'll offer brunch service, but that's not proposed at the very beginning. There is a concept menu in the file. It's an Italian-themed restaurant at a slightly more accessible price point than the Rec Pure Chop House, which is the only other Italian restaurant located in the vicinity. Their proposed hours of operation are Monday to Wednesday from 11:30 a.m. to midnight, Thursday to Sunday from 11:30 a.m. to 2 a.m. They are proposing to offer live entertainment consisting of DJs and bands on evenings and weekends. It's intended to be an amenity to the dining experience, not intended to be a nightclub. We intend to ensure that minors are not served alcoholic beverages. We will have a policy of carding everyone generally who appears to be under the age of 30, and to card everyone, entirely everyone, on evenings and weekends. We expect that the restaurant will create approximately 50 new jobs, and it represents a capital investment of about $1.5 million. Over the last year, we've done an extensive amount of community outreach, which candidly started even before Mr. Lascola acquired the property. We met with the Fells Point community, the design review committee, with regard to the historic component of the property. Over the last year, we have met with the Fells Point Task Force, the Fells Point Residents Association. We've hosted meetings on site with the immediate neighbors located on Ann Street. And I am pleased to report that we do have a letter of support in the file from the Fells Point Residents Association. I will note that our plans changed with regard to the property early in 2021, after we had met with the community association and listened to their concerns. The initial plan did include a third floor roof deck on the Thames Street building that would have had an outdoor seating area facing the waterfront on approximately the front third to one half of the building. And in addition, the plans also originally included a market space on the Ann Street property facing Ann Street. We have modified the plans. Those two components are no longer included in the plans. We are not pursuing the roof deck at this time, nor are we pursuing the market on Ann Street. The space that was initially proposed to include the market is now proposed to be office space for an office tenant. And finally, I would note that in the packet of exhibits, we also included several letters of recommendation from the Canton Community Association and leadership in the Canton Community Association, attesting to Mr. Lascola's reputation regarding his existing restaurants. He has El Buffalo and Raw and Refined in Canton. He has developed a wonderful relationship with the neighbors. He's been very responsive to any concerns raised by them, and he looks forward to cultivating the same type of relationship in Fells Point going forward. Mr. Sale, who is our individual licensee, has been the general manager of El Buffalo for the last 10 years. He has extensive experience in the restaurant and hospitality industries. He is tip certified. We will also have a policy that all managers at the restaurant be tip certified. He's a Baltimore City resident. He is familiar with the rules and regulations of the Baltimore City Liquor Board and pledges to abide by them. Now, under state law, there are particular requirements for a license in this particular ward and precinct. We are required to have a seating capacity that is fewer than 150 individuals. Our current seating capacity is about 125, so well under the 150 seating capacity limit. And we are required to have average daily receipts from the sale of food that are at least 51% of the total receipts for the restaurant. Based on Mr. Lascola and Mr. Sale's experience in Canton, we do not expect that to be difficult at all. This is intended to be primarily a restaurant as opposed to a bar. With regard to the criteria that the board is required to consider in approving the application, there is a public need and desire for the license, as demonstrated by the letter of support from the Fells Point Residents Association. I believe I heard Mr. Dewberry on the line as well. When Mr. Blendy was calling roll, Mr. Dewberry is with the Preservation Society, and if he is here to testify, I suspect that he will testify that the community does support the issuance of the license at this location. We do not expect there to be any adverse effect on the number and location of existing licenses. As I mentioned, we were very sensitive to the density of licenses in this area, and we are not applying for a new license to add to the number of licenses in the area. We are simply transferring an existing license from right around the corner to this new location. We do believe that it creates a uniqueness of services. As I mentioned, the only other Italian restaurant in the vicinity is the Rex Pier Chop House in the Pendry Hotel. This restaurant here will provide an Italian menu at a more accessible price point. We look forward to providing that service to the neighborhood, and we do not expect there to be any negative impact on health, safety, or general welfare in the community. Mr. Lascola and Mr. Sale have an excellent reputation at their existing restaurants, as demonstrated by the letters of recommendation from the Canton Community Association and their leadership. And we look forward, as I said, to cultivating the same type of relationship in Fells Point going forward. Finally, the other thing I would mention that I saw mentioned in a number of the letters that the Liquor Board has received regarding this application, there is litigation pending brought by Mr. Ransom and several of his followers regarding the historic components of the building. They filed the requests for judicial review through a writ of administrative mandamus of approvals of the Maryland Historical Trust and the Commission for Historic and Architectural Preservation. Those cases have been decided in favor of the administrative decisions were affirmed in the Circuit Court for Baltimore City. Mr. Ransom has appealed those decisions to the Court of Special Appeals. The outcome of that litigation will have absolutely no impact on the use of the property for a restaurant or the issuance of the liquor license. So, we don't believe that that has any bearing on today's hearing. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have, and we would respectfully request that the board approve the transfer of the license to this location.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
I do have one question. Ms. Hecker, can you just clarify where the live entertainment would be permitted?
It would be in the first floor of 1724 Thames Street.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Blendy, see if we have public comment. I want to make it clear, because we have a long docket, that I'm only interested in hearing comments that relate to the first and second floors of 1724 Thames Street and the proposed restaurant at that location.
Then yes, Mr. Chair, we do. We have Clifford Ransom, who I've moved in, and I'll ask, of course, again, I know that Thomas Minton had indicated that he is interested. And so if any other member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the Webex platform. I see Mr. Dewberry is here, and I don't see his hand raised, but I'll move him in out of an abundance of caution. And yes, if you can't raise your hand, go ahead and message me in the chat. But right now I have 3 individuals in, Mr. Chairman.
All right, let's swear them in.
Okay.
All of you need to hit
turn
the start video button that should have appeared at the bottom of your screen when I moved you into the panel.
Folks, I will not be providing testimony today. I'm simply witnessing.
Okay, I will move you back to the other.
Okay. Mr. Ransom and Mr. Minton, okay.
This is Mr. Minton. I'm just here as counsel. I'm not testifying.
Mr. Ransom, you need to hit the start video button, which should be at the bottom of your screen now.
I see it. I don't see it. I don't see a start button.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
God damn it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ransom, but you can't use that kind of language here.
Well, if you can hear me, please indicate if you can hear me.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Let's swear him in.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Ransom, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
All right. What did you want to tell?
Was that
Mr.
addressed to me?
Yes, what did you want to tell us?
You have documents from our attorney and from a number, over 20 local residents and business owners who are very concerned about this application. We have been faced with, well, the word I've been using is Ms. Hecker is a shrewd attorney. That's a polite word. She has been consistently, and so is Mr. Lascola, telling us that they are not at the present time looking to put a rooftop deck on this bar. We have asked the courts to make MHT and CHAP live up to their responsibilities, and we are hopeful that the esteemed members of the Liquor Board will do the same thing. One of the civic roles of responsible Fells Point neighbors and community associations is to preserve the integrity of the Fells Point Historic District. It is a rare jewel that the city, any other city, would have bent over backwards to protect. Ms. Hecker, in her letter to the board, if you look at the first paragraph of her letter, you can pretty much answer every single sentence with not yet, not now, or not at this time. It is clear that they're going to build their intentions are, and Mr. Lascola has said it publicly and Ms. Hecker has said it publicly, they're going to build a major rooftop deck. It would be a first in Fells Point. It's just premature to work on this action and not have it affect our historic district. The integrity of the neighborhood and its darn near unique institutional historical legacy is unbelievable. I speak today as a neighbor with significant credentials to address this issue, and I hope that the board will be cognizant of the amplifications, the ramifications of any decisions today. I bring 50 years of experience as an institutional investment analyst, research analyst, as a very long time community and historical preservation advocate, and as a property owner down here. If a rooftop is a future consideration, the new owner has made it very clear that he's going to go ahead with that. And the board, I would respectfully request, keep that closely in mind. I had expected our attorney to speak, so if I appear disjointed, I feel that I can't address, he has addressed a number of serious procedural deficiencies with the application, which I hope that the board will take full cognizance of. Thank you very much.
Okay. Ms. Hecker, do you have any questions for Mr. Ransom?
No, sir.
Does the commission have any questions?
No.
No questions.
I have a further question, if I may. There are a number of people who wanted to testify who said that they can't get into the webcast. What do we do about that? I had a terrible time getting in myself.
So, Mr. Chair, I do have 2 additional individuals who have been able to get in and raise their hand, and I will be happy to move them in. But that is all I see is two more individuals with their hands raised.
I want to be clear, though. Mr. Ransom testified about this third floor thing that is not before the board, and I don't want to hear any more testimony about it. So if they have something else to testify about that's relevant to what's before us today, I'll hear them. Let's swear them in.
I do not understand why you're limiting.
Hold on.
I'm ruling.
Then, Mr. Chair, I have moved Stephen Lampredi and Linda Giovanni into the room. If you see start video at the bottom of your screens, please hit that button. Mr. Chair.
Let's swear them in.
Okay. All right. I see Stephen. I'm just waiting for Linda.
I'm trying. There we go. I think I'm in now.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. Please raise your right hand. Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or under penalty of perjury?
I do.
I do.
Thank you both.
All right, Ms. Giovanni, let's start with you. Do you have something to tell us about the proposed restaurant at the first and second floors of 1724 Thames Street?
Sure. I'd like to express just a few concerns, being that the home that I own is located at 1730 Lancaster Street, directly behind 1724, 1726 Thames Street. I have concerns about entertainment. I did go to one of the community meetings there when they kindly invited us to speak with them about our concerns. And I do not recall at that time them stating they had live entertainment. And I know that their attorney just mentioned that there would be a DJ there. To me, that means loud music and dancing. And we have to understand that there are residences, historical residences, right across the street from them. So that would be one of my concerns. The other is the additional problem with parking in Fells Point. It's just a nightmare. I'm a real estate agent. If I come home on a Saturday, anytime after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I can't park as it is. So it's the increased traffic and the city really not implementing any of the city traffic parking restrictions that are in place right now. I also have a problem with what's going to happen with all the trash. We already have a rodent problem in Fells Point. They did say that they would keep the trash inside the building, which I kind of have a hard time believing. My concern is it being dumped in back of those premises at the rear of the restaurant, and the people in that neighborhood who constantly deal with rodents having an increased problem there. I will not bring up the third-story deck, but if that happens, there will be a fight by the neighbors on that. I'm not going to bring it up anymore because I understand it's a moot point right now. Those are my basic concerns.
All right, thank you. Does Ms. Hecker have any questions for Ms. Giovanni?
No questions.
To the commissioners?
No questions.
No questions.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. The other gentleman who wanted to testify?
That would be me,
Yes, sir. Tell us your name again, please.
Stephen Lampredi.
Good morning, Mr. Lampredi. What did you want to tell us?
Well, I wanted to reflect upon every difficulty that neighbors and residents have ever expressed about restaurants, which includes trash quantity, traffic, parking, density, sound, light, motion, music, outdoor music, et cetera, have ever been mentioned about any restaurant in Fells Point are all valid, and this simply means there will be more. And when there is more, you just have more of more. It's not better. They've claimed that there's a need for this. I refute that because most of the people I talk to in Fells Point agree. We have enough restaurants and bars. The streets are clogged with delivery trucks now. And I noted that on the plans submitted by this developer, they're going to have their trash room on Lancaster Street, which is an only residential street. And where is the trash going to end up? It's going to go out that back door. Whether the trash truck comes down that street or not, it's going to be a problem because the trash will then have to be dragged out to Ann Street. They've talked about this before and said, well, we'll take it all to the front, just like every other restaurant on Thames Street. But I have a feeling that's not going to really solve the problem. So everything you've ever heard about Fells Point residents uncomfortable with the issues associated with liquor establishments, it's just going to be more. The existing liquor license was for a very small neighborhood bar with a limited capacity. This is more than doubling that capacity. And I'll just sum up by saying that the historic community here has been facing a complex web of challenges to its integrity and livability. This issue is only one of them. Therefore, it cannot address all of those issues. But the people I know who live in Fells Point, and I've worked there for many years, They say this is just going to cause further harm, and I think it can be demonstrated that it will.
All right, thank you. Ms. Hecker, do you have questions for Mr. Lampredi?
No questions.
Commissioners?
No questions.
No questions.
Commissioner Reisinger?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, anyone else, Mr. Blendy?
If any additional member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the Webex platform.
Mr. Blendy, this is Mr. Minton. I don't want to testify, but when the testimony is concluded, I do have just a couple of remarks I'd like to make as counsel.
Mr. Chair.
I think that's the testimony, so go ahead, Mr. Minton.
Well, Your Honor, thank you. I'll be brief, and I appreciate your effort to restrict this to the property that's in front of you now. But I will say that we can only deal with the application as filed. And so putting aside the rooftop deck, as to which the CHAP's approval has not been rescinded, it's still active. Put that aside, I understand that. Looking at the property at 808, council said that 808 is not part of the application, and that there's no plans to move forward with 808 at this time, pending approval. But that's not the application that was filed. The application, if you look at the architectural drawing for A201 originally, includes that as a dining room. It doesn't say it's a separate address. 808, the words 808 do not appear on that drawing. And so so it causes us to wonder whether the applicant was being fully honest with the board. Until we raise an objection that the application embraces 808, because clearly it does, either it embraces 808 or they pictured a dining room with no address, that's a problem. And so I mention that because it caused us to dig deeper, and I can rest on, I sent a 4-page memorandum on Tuesday. I can rest on that, but we have serious questions about the financial aspects of this and the requirements of the code regarding authorized persons and financial responsibility. The problem is that Mr. Sale has said he has 0% interest in Prima Dopo, and that Mr. Lascola, a few days before this application, signed articles of incorporation with and filed them with STAT saying he was the authorized person. So I apologize if the board has more information before it than the public, than we can pick up from the website. But on its face, with an application where the landlord is signing as authorized person for the owner, for the licensee, proposed licensee, with STAT, but not signing on the application as a licensee, and where the application for licensee doesn't show any financial interest, we believe on its face that's a problem under the portions of the code that we've cited. And for that reason, I don't see how the board can just approve it without more information, at least on those aspects of the application. Under 4302 of the code, this transfers a judge in the same way that an original license issue would be. So as I understand it, the financial implications, as discussed in later parts of the code, are important. An authorized person under 4105 and financial interest under 4105 and 4109, they're crucial. And I don't see how they're satisfied by this application. And if I'm wrong, if there's more information, then I apologize. And other than that, I'll stand on the memo we filed, and I appreciate your time.
Okay. I just want to comment that it seems that with this and with many other cases, we hear arguments that belong before the zoning board about authorizing restaurants and bars throughout areas of the city. We deal with liquor licenses. We don't deal with the zoning issues. So I don't know why they come to us all the time, but okay. Ms. Hecker, do you want to say anything further before we proceed?
With the board's permission, I would just like to briefly respond to Mr. Minton's comments. With regard to the Ann Street property, we have always been forthright that has always been part of this project. It is shown on the architectural drawings because it has always been part of this project. However, because it is a separate property, it has to have a separate application. We have to go through a zoning board approval process before we can extend the liquor license to that premises. If you look at the letter of support from the Fells Point Residents Association, it is very clear that they understand that the Ann Street property is part of the project, if not part of this actual application. We expect to be back before the liquor board at some point in the future to extend the licensed premises to that location, but that's not what's before the board today. And then briefly, just regard to the ownership of the license, Mr. Sale is the 100% owner of the license. There was a typo on the original application. Liquor board staff brought that to my office's attention several weeks ago, and it was corrected. We provided updated information to the liquor board, indicating that Mr. Sale owns 100% of this license, and that should be in the liquor board's file.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Having heard all the testimony in this case and reviewed the materials contained in the application, as well as all the submissions that were presented to the board, I'm prepared to rule, and I'm going to vote to approve this amended application to transfer ownership and location of this Class BD7 beer, wine, liquor license, which is presently located at 807 South Broadway to 1724 Thames Street, with live entertainment and delivery of alcoholic beverages. Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, based on testimony provided today by Ms. Hecker and those who testified, I also approve the amended application to transfer ownership and location of a Class BD7 beer, wine, liquor license presently located at 807 South Broadway to 1724 Thames Street, and requesting live entertainment, outdoor table service, and delivery of alcoholic beverages.
Actually, they withdrew the outdoor table service request.
Okay, so delete my statement on outdoor table service, and we'll go on with delivery of alcoholic beverages. Thank you.
Based upon the proffers, the testimony in front of us, I too would approve the amended application to transfer ownership and location of the BD7 license presently located at 807 South Broadway to 1724 Thames Street, with live entertainment and delivery of alcoholic beverages.
Ms. Russell?
Michael exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, 29 letters of support, of opposition. Board Exhibit 2, business plan.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hecker, Mr. Minton, and all those who participated.
Thank you, sir.
That concludes this matter before the board. Applicant and counsel will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to legally complete the transfer of ownership and location of the license, including live entertainment and delivery of alcoholic beverages, which was preliminarily approved by the board today, which by law must occur within 180 days of today's hearing. Mr. Chair, are we ready to move to the next matter?
Yes, sir.
And the next item before the board, if the board will allow me to do some Webex housekeeping. The next matter before the board today, applicant Basilios Circus, Admirals of Thames LLC, trading as Waterfront Hotel. Premises are located at 1710 Thames Street. This is an application to transfer ownership only of a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license with continuation of live entertainment and outdoor table service. Ms. Nardangeli is counsel and is in the room, as is Mr. Smith and Mr. Circus. I can't move into the room for some reason, but Ms. Counsel is here, Mr. Chair.
All right. Good morning, or good afternoon, Ms. Nardangeli. Would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Good afternoon. I am Anastasia Nardangeli on behalf of the applicant. I am here with Mr. Circus and Mr. Smith. I would like to proceed by way of a proffer and then permit either Mr. Circus or Mr. Smith to answer any questions that might follow.
Go ahead.
This is an application for the transfer of ownership only. Nothing else about the operation is changing. The name is the same. The applicant is a party to an asset purchase agreement and purchased this restaurant and the real estate on which it's situated back at the end of last year. We submitted an application in connection with that purchase, and the restaurant will continue to operate the same as before. Mr. Circus and Mr. Smith will both be present on the premises and serving as day-to-day managers, while Atlas Restaurant Group will be managing the operations of the restaurant. Something that might be added would be additional security, because Atlas Restaurant Group does provide private security to the restaurants it manages in and around Fells Point. Other than that, there really are no changes that we are requesting. We're just requesting the transfer ownership. Thank you.
Does Mr. Circus have experience in managing restaurants and bars?
Absolutely, yes. Right now, he's an owner and he manages the Chop Tank. But I will let Mr. Circus give you his full background. So, Billy, are you currently in the room?
For whatever reason, I cannot let him in the room. Mr. Smith's in the room.
That's okay.
Yeah, I can speak to Billy. He's
You gotta be sworn.
oh, sorry.
Okay, Mr.
And
Smith, can
please
you
hit
turn
start
on?
video, Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Circus has run his family restaurant, Captain James, for a number of years, as well as the Chop Tank and Watershed from both an ownership level and a managerial level, as well as he'll have our support, our corporate support at Atlas Restaurant Group.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Public comment, Mr. Bundy?
Potentially, Mr. Chair. If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the Webex platform. I see that Mr. Lampredi, I don't know if he still has his hand up from previously, but Mr. Lampredi, did you wish to testify on this?
No, I did. I have just left the button on, I guess.
Okay, thank you. Then, no, Mr. Chairman, no one has raised their hand.
All right, thank you. Based on the materials contained in the application, the proffer from Ms. Nardangeli, and testimony from Mr. Smith, I vote to approve this application to transfer ownership of this BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license with continued live entertainment and outdoor table service. Commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chair, based on testimony provided today, I also approve the application to transfer ownership with continuation of live entertainment and outdoor table service.
Based upon the application, the proffer, and the testimony, I too would approve the transfer of ownership with continuation of live entertainment and outdoor table service.
Ms. Russell?
No exhibits for the record.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Nardangeli. Good luck to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board. License or applicant and council will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to legally complete the transfer of ownership that was preliminarily approved by the board today, which by law must occur within 180 days of today's hearing. Mr. Chair, are we ready to move forward?
Yes, sir.
The next matter, I believe, Mr. Previs's counsel has been moved into the room. Then the next matter before the board today, applicant Gerardo Garcia Sanchez, Garcia Restaurant LLC, trading as Carnitas Rocio. Premises are located at 500 South Wolf Street. This is an application to transfer ownership of a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license.
Good morning, Mr.
Good
Previs.
afternoon.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Previs on behalf of Gerardo Garcia Sanchez, who is in the picture with me.
Do you want to proffer this, Mr. Previs?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application for transfer of ownership only of the Class B beer, wine, and liquor license currently located at 500 South Wolf Street. This premises had been a restaurant tavern for several years. There was a previous liquor license. That establishment had gone out of business. The most recent licensee, Carolina's, was Mr. Sanchez's tenant. They had some disagreements, and the workout of those disagreements was for Mr. Sanchez to take over the restaurant and the liquor license, and the Silvas have moved on to 300 South Highland, which does not have a liquor license. They have a new operation that they're about to endeavor into. Mr. Sanchez is a real estate investor. He's owned this building for several years, along with his wife and his daughter. He also has probably 30 years of experience dealing in restaurants and the service of alcoholic beverages. He's currently alcohol awareness certified, but he understands fully his obligations under the liquor laws with regard to closing at the appropriate time, not allowing minors to be served. He does plan on having a manager, of Miss Rosa Martinez Pena. Before she begins her duties under this license, we will make sure that she is also alcohol awareness certified and specified on the renewal applications as they become due. The operation will be on the first and second floors, as it already is. They will be open 7 days a week. There will be a lunch menu available only on the first floor, and dinner on both floors. Hours of operation 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. If business so provides for that late closing. Again, there's no other changes to the existing business, although the menu will probably change just a bit, but it will be a Mexican themed restaurant. Mr. Gerardo Sanchez has not had any communications with the community. As in the last hearing I had a block away from here, we were not quite sure who to get in touch with. No one has reached out to us, but we are available and ready, willing, and able to fully communicate with the neighbors. He's down there pretty much all the time and is available to address any concerns. Again, he was not involved in the prior operation. He was previously just the landlord. Now he will be fully invested as a landlord and as the operator of the business.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners have questions?
No questions.
Mr. Previs, he understands that live entertainment is not part of this application.
Yes, he absolutely understands that there is no live entertainment, there is no request for outdoor table service, and that this is a Class B restaurant license in the 46, which requires a 51% food requirement. And this operation will be restaurant heavy. Is that correct, Mr. Sanchez?
Yes. Okay, anything further, commissioners?
Nope.
All right.
No.
Do we have anyone else who wishes to testify, Mr. Bundy?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the Webex platform. Mr. Chair, no one has raised their hand.
On the basis of the materials contained in the application, Mr. Previs's proffer, and any testimony received, I vote to approve this application to transfer ownership of this Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, based on testimony provided today, I also approve the application to transfer ownership.
Based upon the application, the proffer from Mr. Previs, I too would approve the transfer of ownership.
Ms. Russell?
No exhibits for the record.
Thank you, Ms. Previs. Good luck to your client.
Thank you very much.
That concludes this matter before the board today. Applicant will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to legally complete the transfer of ownership that was preliminarily approved today, which by law must occur within 180 days of today's hearing. Are we ready to move forward, Mr. Chair?
Please.
And moving ahead to through Mr. Hurdles that this board has already heard today. The next matter is on the screen and council is being moved into the room. The next item on today's docket, applicant George Albert Marshall Jr., Marshalls Incorporated, trading as Marshall's Bar. Premises are located at 2351 Washington Boulevard. This is an application to transfer ownership of a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Mr. Kadensky is counsel and in the room.
Afternoon, Mr. Kadensky, please.
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky, 320 North Charles Street, representing the applicant in this case.
Do you want to proffer for us?
Yeah, yes, I would. This is a case where basically this restaurant, this bar has been in the family since 2003 or 4 between Mr. Marshall and his father. Probably in the case here, Mr. Rice, you can remember Mr. Marshall, he used to refer to him as George Sugar Marshall. And there's no change. The senior Mr. Marshall is moving out. The Marshall Jr. is going to maintain and run the business, and there won't be any change in the operation. He's familiar with the rules and regulations, familiar with all the operation in that area.
Okay, they had some violations back in 2009, 2013. So the younger Mr. Marshall is certified?
Oh, he is, and he's been actually running the place as he's been going along.
Okay. Commissioners have questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
No questions.
Public comment, Mr. Blendy?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the Webex platform. Mr. Chair, no one has raised their hand.
All right. On the basis that the materials contained in the application and proffer from Mr. Kadensky, I vote to approve this application to transfer ownership of this BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chair, based on testimony provided today by Mr. Kadensky, I also approve the application to transfer ownership.
Based upon the application and the proffer from Mr. Kadensky, I too would approve the transfer of ownership with the delivery of alcoholic beverages.
Ms. Russell?
No exhibits for the record.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kadensky. Good luck to your client.
All right. All right. Yes, sir.
That concludes this matter before the board. Applicant will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to complete the transfer preliminarily approved by the board today, which by law must occur within 180 days of today's hearing. Next matter, Mr. Chair.
Please.
And the next matter before the board today, applicant Ravinder Kaur and Darlene Marie Roy, South Baltimore Liquors Incorporated, trading as Westport Liquors. Premises are located at 2244 to 46 Annapolis Road, and this is an application to transfer ownership only of a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license and requesting delivery of alcoholic beverages. Mr. Kadensky is counsel.
Again, for the record, Melvin J. Kadensky at 320 North Charles Street, representing the applicant. This is a place that's been there for quite some time. Miss Cower and her husband are buying the property. They're going to own the property. In fact, they got an SBA loan that was approved. The other individual, Miss Darlene Roy, she is the city resident. She'll help out as needed, but won't necessarily be running the place. They are going to be familiarize themselves with the rules and regulations, get alcohol certified, and they're going to stay on. The people who are there now are going to stay there and help them through the business, because Ms. Carr doesn't have any real experience in the alcoholic beverage business, but the present employees are going to stay there and go ahead and help her through it. It's on the corner building that's in Westport.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Anyone? Bundy?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the Webex platform. Mr. Chair, no one has raised their hand.
It looks like this place has a clean record, so on the basis of the materials contained in the application and the proffer from Mr. Kadensky, I vote to approve the application to transfer ownership of this Class A beer, wine, and liquor license with delivery of alcoholic beverages. Commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I also, based on the testimony provided by Mr. Kadensky today, I also approve the application to transfer ownership and the request for delivery of alcoholic beverages.
Based upon the application and the proffer, I too would approve the transfer of ownership with the delivery of alcoholic beverages.
Ms. Russell?
No exhibits for the record.
Thank you again, Mr. Kadensky.
Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board. Applicant will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to legally complete the transfer that was preliminarily approved by the board today, which by law must occur within 180 days of today's hearing. Ready for the next matter, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And the next matter is applicant Sandeep Singh and Ajay Sim, A&B Liquors Incorporated, trading as A&B Liquors. Premises are located at 523 to 25 West Lexington Street. This is an application to transfer ownership only of a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license, and applicants are requesting delivery of alcoholic beverages. I believe Mr. Kadensky is also counsel on this one, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Also, for the record, Melvin J. Kadensky, 320 North Charles Street. This is a transfer of an existing location. The present applicant has had well over 4 or 5 years experience in having worked at RP Liquors down in Baltimore County on Back River Neck Road. Relatives have his owned it, so he is familiar with the sale of alcohol. The present owners are also helping him. He's been at the place for quite some time. It's about a block from the Lexington Market, if you probably want to visualize it. The Miss Sim is not here. She is a current licensee, so she's already on the license at this point, and she's going to stay on the license as the city resident. There are not going to be any changes as far as the operation of the business, and everybody that's going to be working will be alcohol certified.
Okay. Commissioners have questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Public comment?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the Webex platform. Mr. Chair, no one has raised their hand, and I do note that Ms. Sim apparently is here if the board needs her for any reason.
Thought she had to go somewhere at 1 o'clock. So
That's okay. I think we're good. So on the basis of the materials containing the application and the proffer from Mr. Kadensky, I'd vote to approve this application to transfer ownership of this Class A beer, wine, and liquor license with delivery of alcoholic beverages. Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, based on the testimony provided today by Mr. Kadensky, I also approve the application to transfer ownership and the request for delivery of alcoholic beverages.
Based upon the application and the proffer, I too would approve the transfer of ownership with the delivery of alcoholic beverages.
Thank you, Ms. Russell.
Was it for the record?
All right. Thanks again, Mr. Kadensky.
thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board. Applicant will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to legally complete the transfer of ownership that was preliminarily approved by the board today, which by law must occur within 180 days of today's hearing. Are we ready for the next matter, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Then one bit of housekeeping. The next item on the docket for today, applicant Ronald M. Singer and licensees Ronald M. Singer and Kim W. Thompson, Leon's 1957 Incorporated, trading as Leon's of Baltimore. Premises are located at 870 Park Avenue. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license and an application to transfer ownership only with continuation of live entertainment. I believe Mr. Fogelman is counsel on this and is in the room, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon, Mr. Fogelman.
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor, and Commissioners. Can you see and hear me and my clients?
I get, yes.
Great. All right, I'll be very brief, and I'd like to proffer. This should be the easiest case of the day. Mr. Singer and Mr. Thompson are currently the licensees at this location and have been for many years. Mr. Singer has went through a divorce a couple of years ago, and quite frankly, just wants to change the company's name because the company's name, ERS Incorporated, are the initials of his ex-wife. So he has decided to turn a page, and that's why this transfer is being transferred between these two corporations. So there'll be no change whatsoever. They've both been alcohol management certified. They both have been running this tavern for many years. And so we would ask that you consider all that in approving this transfer. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners?
No questions.
No questions, and I'm all for turning a good page.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And it doesn't seem like there's really any, well, there was a violation back in 2017, but otherwise looks pretty clean. Oh, well, they've had a couple issues.
Yeah. More recently.
Yeah, yeah.
But
and they've learned from those.
All right. Do you have anyone else who wishes to testify on this, Mr. Blundy?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the Webex platform. Mr. Chair, no one has raised their hand.
Mr. Fogelman, on the basis of the materials contained in the application and your proffer, I vote to approve this application to transfer ownership of this BG7 beer, wine, and liquor license with continued live entertainment. Commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chair, based on testimony provided today by Mr. Fogelman, I also approve the application to transfer ownership with the continuation of live entertainment.
Based upon the application and the proffer, I too would approve the application to transfer ownership with continuation of live entertainment.
Ms. Russell?
No exhibits for the record.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fogelman. Good luck to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board. Licensees will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to legally complete the transfer, which the board preliminarily approved today, which by law must occur within 180 days of today's hearing. Ready for the next matter, Mr. Chair?
Please.
And the next matter is applicant Christopher Amendola Restaurant Group LLC, trading as Foraged. Premises are located at 1709 North Charles Street, Suite 101. This is an application to transfer ownership with continuation of outdoor table service, requesting off-premises catering and delivery of alcoholic beverages of a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. An applicant is representing himself today, so needs to be sworn, Mr. Chair.
Okay, let's swear Mr. Amendola, please.
Okay. Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Amendola. This restaurant moved recently, didn't it?
Yes, we were located in Hamden on Chestnut Avenue for about 4 years, and we just moved about 2 months ago now.
Okay, and so what's changing?
Well, we moved to a bigger location, which has been very nice for the business as we grow. And I had a Class D beer and wine license at the last location, and sold that one and looking to take over the full liquor license for this location.
Okay, and this license had a violation fairly recently. Was that one of those COVID violations?
I believe it was tampering that the controller referred to us, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So, Mr. Amendola, have you had any problems with the liquor board in the past?
I have not. I had a liquor license for a little over 4 years now, and I don't believe I've ever had one violations with the liquor board.
Are you familiar with their rules and regulations?
Yes,
And are you TAMP certified?
I am, and several of my employees are as well.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Anyone else, Mr. Blendy?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the Webex platform. Mr. Chair, no one has raised their hand.
All right. Mr. Amendola, on the basis of the materials contained in your application and your testimony this afternoon, I vote to approve your application to transfer ownership of this Class B beer, wine, and liquor license with continued outdoor table service, off-premise catering, and delivery of alcoholic beverages. Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, based on testimony provided today, I also approve the application to transfer ownership with continuation of outdoor table service and the request for off-premise catering and delivery of alcoholic beverages.
Based upon the application and the testimony, I too would approve the transfer of ownership with continuation of outdoor table service, off-premise catering, and delivery of alcoholic beverages.
Ms. Russell?
No exhibits for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Amendola. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board. Applicant will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to legally complete the transfer that was preliminarily approved today, which by law must occur within 180 days of today's hearing. Are you ready for the final item, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Find where did there he is. Bringing Mr. Fogelman back in. The last item on today's docket is applicant Joanne Robinson and Aaron A. Stocks to the Top LLC, trading as Birdland Sports Bar and Grill. Premises are located at 6317 to 19 Belair Road. This is an application to transfer ownership and requesting live entertainment for a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. Ms. Stocks is here. Mr. Fogelman is counsel, and I believe Terrence Austin is also here. That should be it. Everyone's in the room, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Fogelman?
Yes, thank you very much, Your Honor and Commissioners. I'm here. You can see me and you can see Ms. Robinson and Mr. Tyler here.
Yes. Do you want to proffer for
Yeah,
us?
I'd be happy to proffer. Joanne Robinson to the left, she is an applicant, as is Aaron Stocks, who is joining us remotely. Ms. Robinson is here in Fells Point with Mr. Kenneth Tyler, who is the GM of Birdland Sports Bar and Grill and has been for the last 4 years and counting. Ms. Robinson and Ms. Stocks both have full-time jobs, both in corrections and other work. They will not be on premises from 9 to 5, but be there in the evenings, the weekends. Effectively, Mr. Tyler alerted them to the sale of the bar, and it's something they've wanted to be involved with for a long time. So everyone will be alcohol management certified. Mr. Tyler already is, and spends 60 hours a week behind the bar. So there really won't be any changes for management or anything like that. So I'd ask you to approve the transfer of the ownership. The other component of this request is for live entertainment. Mr. Tyler and myself had a meeting with the office of Councilwoman Danielle McCray, and we made some concessions and sent off a proposed memorandum of understanding with the Seedmont Community Improvement Association Incorporated. We do not have a signed MOU as of this minute. What I will tell you is that the applicants agreed that live entertainment would be held only on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights, consisting of a DJ or karaoke and one live band performance per month with notice to the Seedmont community. Finally, they've agreed that live entertainment will end at least 2 hours prior to the closing of the establishment on the aforementioned nights. So I guess what I'd ask you to do today here, if you're inclined to do so, is to approve the transfer of ownership and hold the live entertainment sub curia pending an MOU being received by the board. In the alternative, if there were some breakdown in negotiations, perhaps we would ask you to put that back in the future with stakeholders who would want to speak as well.
Yeah, I mean, they got into problems over live entertainment previously, so I think it's wise that they've tried to work something out with the community. All right, so you're just asking us to transfer the ownership. Commissioners have questions?
No questions.
No questions.
And do we have public comment, Mr. Blendy?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the Webex platform.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, no one has raised their hand.
Okay. Mr. Fogelman, then on the basis of the materials contained in the application and your proffer, I vote to approve the application to transfer ownership of this Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. Commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chair, based on testimony provided today of Mr. Fogelman, I also approve the application to transfer ownership.
Based upon the application and the proffer, I too would approve the application to transfer ownership.
All right, and Your Honor, if I may be clear, yeah, I'm not withdrawing the live entertainment. I'm asking you to hold that pending an MOU being received by the liquor board.
Do you want to come back before us once that's done?
No, I'm hoping, I mean, I think in the past, I don't know if it's outdoor tables or various accessories, but we've been able to be approved pending an MOU being received by the board. And if an MOU is not received, then I would ask that the hearing be set back in.
All right. Well, okay. So let me amend my ruling. I would approve application to transfer ownership of the Class B beer, wine, and liquor license with the live entertainment pursuant to the concessions made in the MOU with the community organization, assuming that they are all fully approved by both sides. If not, I would request that we set this back before the board.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Commissioners, do you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Yes, I agree.
Mr. Reisinger agrees.
Yes, I agree too. Mr. Blendy, do you need anything more from Commissioner Reisinger and I on that?
As long as you're agreeing to what the conditions set forth by the chair, I think it's clear for the record.
Great, thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Commissioners.
Ms. Russell, do we have any exhibits?
No exhibits for the record.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fogelman. Good luck to these folks. I hope they get the MOU signed.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Then that concludes this matter before the board. Applicant will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to obtain the request granted by the board today and the transfer, which must legally occur within 180 days of today's hearing, which was preliminarily approved by the board today. Mr. Chair, I believe that is all the matters before the board.
Yeah, would you read the adjournment, please?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. The board will be in recess until March 10th, 2022. The board shall post on its website, provide notice to the applicants and/or attorneys, and conduct a virtual hearing on this date. Please call our office at 410-396-4377 between 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. with any questions or concerns that you have on this matter or any other.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you to the commissioners. Thank you to our staff. Thank you, Mr. Blendy, for managing all of this. And have a pleasant day, and we will see you on March 10th.
Do the same.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Off the record, Ms. Reporter.
Off the record.
Thanks, everyone.